Hey everybody, welcome to Too Old for Comics. I'm Steve.
And I'm Mike.
Right now we're going to start part 2 of our Dan Slott extravaganza. Dan Slott's run on Amazing Spider-Man, the high points and the low points. So here we go, part 2 of celebrating Dan Slott on Amazing Spider-Man. Your generation Spider-Man, if you're listening.
But not ours.
But not ours. When we last spoke, we talked about Brand New Day, Big Time, the event Spider Island, which all led into issue 700, which leads us now into Superior Spider-Man. Probably the highest point, the apex of Dan Slott's run on Spider-Man. Mike, did you like Amazing Spider-Man? I mean, not Amazing Spider-Man, Superior Spider-Man?
At first I didn't because
you were those fans online who just lost their mind, right? They killed Peter Parker.
Not really. Well, it was that time between when we had Kane, Scarlet Spider back, where he was the violent Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And we had a completely different Spider-Man than I grew up on.
Yeah.
The less violent Spider-Man, the self-sacrificing Spider-Man that we all grew up on.
You didn't write a death threat to Dan Slott? Like
No. I'm not that insane of a fan that if I don't like something, I'm not going to fucking threaten someone which can possibly come back to me and get me in trouble.
Which is, I had to kind of, I'm not sure if, I don't know. I'm not going to debate the legitimacy of death threats. I mean, who knows? I mean, there are some crazies out there.
Anyone that does a death threat to any creator should be thrown in jail because A,
it's a comic.
Yeah.
And B, like, come on.
Death threats are like petitions. They mean absolutely nothing.
Yep.
You're going to accomplish nothing with death threats. Like all the death threats Insomniac got from the Spider-Man game because the graphics, which I particularly hate you. If you're like this, I hate you. I'm not going to send you a death threat that I hate you, but death threats and petitions mean nothing. And if you're going to threaten someone over a storyline, regardless of how controversial it is, you are not a fan.
It's a simple thing. You just stop reading the book.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Superior Spider-Man, I never got the hate. I knew it was gonna be. We've lived through the Clone Saga.
Yep.
We've lived through the most controversial storyline.
Yeah, we lived through Green Goblin, Norman Osborn banging Gwen Stacy and having kids.
Oh my God. So we actually lived through a storyline, a 3-year storyline, containing was coinciding with 5 different titles monthly, which they actually did get rid of Peter Parker, and they had no intention of bringing him back.
And they did.
This storyline, of course, you knew Peter Parker was coming back.
I think I said at one point, this is just another Clone Saga.
Oh,
essentially.
I never thought for a second Peter Parker was not coming back. I thought, okay, this is a ride. If I like it, I'll stay on it, and I'll ride it out. If I don't like it, I'll just stop reading the book when Peter Parker comes back.
Though this is the one time I actually fell for the Dan Slott said, Peter Parker's never coming back. I actually fell for that.
Oh, not me.
I was a gullible fool at that time, and whatnot.
At this point, I was...
Amongst other things going on in my life, then I was a gullible fool. And I fucking fell for it.
At this point, I was wise to Dan Slott in his troll ways.
But they kept the conscience of Peter Parker in the background as like a ghost type thing.
Yep.
Where Doc Ock was unaware of it to a certain point. And it was, as I read the issues more, I grew to like it.
Yep.
Because then I also knew that this wasn't forever. That they would never get rid of the Peter Parker that we love.
This storyline, Dan Slott, when he writes books, a lot of times he's really into a show. Right now he's writing Iron Man, I think, and he really wants to base it on Black Mirror.
He's not even he's co-writing it now.
Yeah, now he is. Because he gets a Fantastic Four title, which is
pretty good.
That's really feeds his need to write Doctor Who stories.
Yeah.
And this he was famously obsessed with the show Breaking Bad. Only in this show it was kind of reverse. That show comic was kind of reverse Breaking Bad, where in Breaking Bad there was a good man becoming corrupted by by a bad character.
Yeah.
And it like consume him. This one, it was a bad character trying to become a hero. And I think he did a really good job. Dan Slott really he likes the character of Dr. Octopus. He writes him well. I really love the way Dr. Octopus talked. I love like the cretin and
you dolt.
Yeah. He really talked like a Dick Dastardly.
Which I feel like no one really picked up on. That why is Peter Parker talking like this? Why is Spider-Man talking like this?
You really had to your suspension of disbelief if people didn't realize this is clearly not Peter Parker.
And what I thought was kind of great too about the whole run is this is something that would happen to Peter Parker Spider-Man.
Yeah, this is just the right amount of science wonkiness.
Yeah.
So in this sort of this lasted what, a year and a half?
A year and a half, yeah, up until Spiderverse, where they kind of brought him back, and that was the whole time travel storyline, which we'll get up to in the Spider-Man 29 story arc of this.
So during Superior, a couple things happened. One, I think he got Black Cat arrested, right?
He visually eye raped Mary Jane.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay. Here's part umpteen of Dan Slott teasing Mary Jane and Peter Parker getting back together. We had a cover with Mary Jane and Peter Parker kissing, which was not Peter Parker, it was Dr. Octopus. So I mean
and as Peter Parker's ghostly conscious says, No, I love you, Mary Jane. Don't do this.
Yeah, kind of messed up.
Yeah.
You want to talk about Black Mirror episodes. This is kind of a Black Mirror episode. So that obviously, and then they keep that going for a couple of issues where Dr. Octopus is basically like, this is bullshit. He breaks up with Mary Jane in this.
Yeah, I think it might have been even just 2 issues, 1 or 2 issues, yeah.
Then Mary Jane starts dating a fireman with the Spanish version of Peter Parker's name. It's like Pedro something.
Yeah, and then Doc Ock, Spidey starts dating, what's her name?
Oh, Anna Maria.
Yeah, Anna Maria.
Anna Maria, which is a good character. See, Slott didn't create a lot of great characters. There was in Big Time there was Alpha, which was horrible.
But paid homage. The cover paid homage to the Superman versus Spider-Man cover.
Which we'll talk about. Cassius Clay, which we'll talk about in a second. Silk. Anna Maria was probably the best character that Dan Slott created in this run. So Superior goes on, and as this is going on, we have a couple other small stories, like the Alchemax getting integrated into the 616 universe.
I like that. Yep.
And so we get a cameo from Miguel O'Hara, the Spider-Man 2099, which a lot of people thought before Superior came out that Miguel O'Hara was going to be Spider-Man.
That was because of the tongue,
the claws, and Dan Slott accidentally direct messaged Ryan Stegman about Miguel, which was another trolling.
Which if they did do that kind of would have been interesting.
I mean, this way, I think the storyline was better. I think this is definitely better.
I think they teased that on purpose because eventually, Spider-Man 2099 comes to the present universe, and Peter David's whole run, which is why the reason book got canceled, was he was stuck in the present.
That was another example of you can never go back home again.
Yeah,
they should have just left that alone. It was perfect the way it was. So in the story, we have a couple of issues where Miguel O'Hara comes back. Dan Slott writes Miguel O'Hara the same way he did in the Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions cartoon, which is completely the opposite of how he was in the Peter David run.
Yeah, they made him funny, and I don't get it. They even had the voice actor from the 70s cartoon come in and
me and my son were playing that game recently, and we were talking. This is horribly miscast. They should have had Christopher Daniel Barnes, who did Spider-Man Noir in that book. He should have did Miguel O'Hara's voice.
He did in
they changed
Edge
it up.
of Time, yeah.
And they got it right that time.
Yeah.
And Peter David wrote that also. But so he comes in there and writes Miguel O'Hara completely wrong. Miguel O'Hara is supposed to be, when he's Peter Parker, he's supposed to be mouthy. When he's not Spider-Man, he's all mouthy. When he's Spider-Man, he's almost silent, like a mute. But Dan Slott just wrote him as just a Spider-Man in a different costume. So while we're doing the Alchemax integration, we also have continue with the subplot, the Goblin Nation subplot, which we started the very first issue of Big Time.
Yep.
That brings Norman Osborn back.
Norman Osborn with plastic surgery. Norman Osborn.
Yep. Norman Osborn goes back to his original roots when he first was introduced in the Amazing Spider-Man as a Kingpin wannabe. He, starts this big gang, starts recruiting people like the Hobgoblin.
Yep.
What's her name? Lily Hollister, who was
Mm-hmm.
a menace in Big Time, a Goblin ripoff, and even turns Collie Cooper into a Goblin.
Yeah, yeah.
Superior Spider-Man tries to, he's acting like Spider-Man, confronts Norman. Norman immediately realizes it's not Peter Parker.
But I wouldn't say he didn't know he was Peter Parker because
Oh, he didn't know it was
because of
Spider-Man.
the stink of Brand New Day. Everyone who knew Peter was Peter and Peter was Spider-Man, like Mary Jane, well, for like an issue or two.
Yeah.
Norman Osborn, superheroes, they did not know who he was, and I think that ruins the greatness of the Spider-Man versus Green Goblin.
That's the thing a lot of fans miss was that Norman Osborn didn't know who Spider-Man was.
Yeah.
It took away the personal.
They destroyed
topic.
that iconic cover.
Yeah.
39 issue 40.
But it was nice that Norman knew Spider-Man. He was personal enough with Spider-Man where he knew that wasn't his Spider-Man, and he knew it was Dr. Octopus. So as soon as he realized that, he's like, "Listen, okay, I guess this isn't going to be my big grand fight with Spider-Man. Whatever." By the end of the storyline, there were some great moments. Superior, my favorite by far, even though this Superior Spider-Man kind of floundered out at the end. My favorite part is that when Peter and Otto switch minds back by the end of the story, and Goblin's taking off, whatever, and then like he says like he's like Otto's gonna die, whatever, and then Peter makes a remark like, "Oh, at least I won't be remembered as a guy who carried around a purple purse." And there's this beat where he just looks back at him, and he's like, "Oh, it really is you." And then he that's enough for him to he can't resist the fight with the Spider-Man that he knows. I thought that was really great. Everything else, as far as the ending goes, it kind of was a little lackluster.
It was lackluster. The Goblin fight, just like the Venom movie, felt hollow.
Yeah,
without the old Spider-Man origin.
And this is where you can kind of tell that Slott was running out of ideas.
Yeah.
He still had ideas, that's not true, but as far as the fire wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, he was turning into like Howard Mackie during his last run.
Yeah.
And granted, Spiderverse was pretty great, and introducing Silk was all right.
Yep. This went from Dan Slott saying I want to write Spider-Man to Dan Slott I want to write X amount of numbers of Spider-Man comics.
And with Superior Spider-Man, this also was the start of also Peter Parker taking credit for other people's successes, which makes sense. How would he explain Parker Industries when he was, without giving away who was Spider-Man? But that was when they set the stage for Parker Industries with Superior Spider-Man, which now leads into what I think Volume 4 relaunch.
Yep, that was one of the subplots for Superior Spider-Man was Otto Octavius earning a doctorate because Peter Parker never did because of the Parker luck, which another thing Dan Slott doesn't understand. So that goes into Volume 4 where Peter returns to his body, is immediately made to look like Andrew Garfield, who's during the Amazing Spider-Man movie that came out.
Especially in the first cover.
Yes, especially in the first cover, which also features a lizard who's in the Amazing Spider-Man movie. This is where I was still reading the book, but this is where I started to kind of check out a little bit. I'll have Mike, when we go through storylines, I'll have Mike kind of go through them because he remembers most of them.
Because I do, like I said, to all you fans out there, I do need most of the Steve Ditko issues, so feel free to buy them or give them to me.
I know the storylines because just like a child walking in with his parents having sex, I'll never forget how horrible this is, but I don't remember the details.
Basically, the most important part of Volume 4 was Spider-Verse, and
that's a storyline that comes right after. First and foremost, not only is this another relaunch of Spider-Man, Dan Slott has a retcon Spider-Man's origin.
Yep.
We get into the story where
one of many retcons of Spider-Man's origin, and
those involve Cassius Clay, who is a supervillain from way back in Spider-Man's high school that was apparently never mentioned, but now also we remember him. He's the Sentry of the Spider-Man universe.
They did he was able to make a suit like Spider-Man. It was like a Amazing Spider-Man .1, .2, .3. And there's one thing that I do want to digress real quickly. During the Superior Spider-Man run, there was 800.1, .2, and .3.
Yeah.
Which I thought were great issues. I just felt that I think this was setting the stage to see what Peter Parker you liked. The one who would stop whatever he's doing to help someone else, regardless if Aunt May needed help, which was 800.1 and 2. Whereas Superior Spider-Man would send the police to go fight the building fire, and he'd go save his Aunt May, who was, stuck in her house alone. But I wish I mentioned that earlier in Superior Spider-Man run. But
so we mentioned in World's End where we had we started this Slott started as incompetent Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Before Superior Spider-Man, he was the incompetent Spider-Man, and now he's in full swing where Peter is can't do anything about himself now by this point.
It was Amazing Spider-Man co-starring Spider-Man, especially in his last Volume 5. Whatever.
Oh yeah, well it starts in here. In the very first issue, we have this is where we introduce Silk.
Yep.
Who apparently, when Spider-Man was bitten by a spider, not only did that spider not die, it also bit another classmate, Cindy Moon, is that her name?
Yep, Cindy Moon, yep.
Who ends up getting locked up in a bunker by Ezekiel, a character from
two factors from JMS's run, which we've never seen Cindy Moon before, but he went back onto it, so basically this was supposed to be almost a sequel to when second time Spider-Man fought Morlun.
Yeah.
He fought him with JMS the first time, and then the second time the whole
the other,
yep, which I have a neat poster on my wall over there.
we want to talk about runs that went from great to shit, like Slott's. We can talk about JMS's runs some other time. Silk's reintroduced. She's taken out of the bunker.
Well, she was never really reintroduced. He did create her just for this.
Yep.
It was during the Sins Past or whatever the hell that...
Original Sin.
Yes, Original Sin. That really awful storyline where...
If we want to get into comics and too old for comics, Original Sin is the comic where I'm you know what? I think I'm all set with comics now.
Yeah, it took, almost 3-4 years for us to find out why Thor was unworthy to be Thor. Yeah. And
so it wasn't just Spider-Man where I was starting to get burnt out. It was just comics in general, Marvel comics especially.
Yeah.
So Cindy Moon comes to the picture, and this is another example of how Slott never wrote Peter Parker. He wrote Dan Slott as Spider-Man, where this young, hot, naked Spider-Girl shows up, and whenever Peter's around, they can't help but bang each other.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
This is a typical comic book nerd writing a superhero. This ends up, we go through the storyline. It's horrible, and this leads into Slott's
last big
event,
I would say.
Successful
for the most
event.
Part, yeah.
Spiderverse, which was basically this is classic Slott, where it's just here's an idea for a gimmick. All the Spider-Men you can think of. Okay, what's the storyline?
Every Spider-Man in every costume ever.
Yeah.
And every Spider-Woman in every costume ever, basically.
And that was it was all reliant on all the Spider-Man costumes because you had all the money shots in there.
Yep.
It was just comic book porn. It was you have Cosmic Spider-Man, splooge, Spider-Ham, splooge.
Yeah.
What's the story? And just like a porn, what's the storyline? These vampires want to eat Spider-Men, and it's that sounds horrible. But
let's do it anyways.
But look, Ben Reilly Spider-Man, splooge.
Yeah. And yet again, they kill us off with the Ben Reilly Spider-Man.
Mark Bagley drawn Ben Reilly Spider-Man costume, and everybody's like, "Woo, Ben!" Well, not everybody. Ben Reilly fans. Ben Reilly, he's killed again.
Yep. And that's what I talked about earlier, and how we can't really digress on Ben Reilly because we'll go off on a whole tangent.
I remember when this came out, and Mike was reading it, and he's like, "Did you read the new issue of Spider-Verse?" I'm like, "Fuck this book."
But then Dan Slott was a part of Spider-Geddon. Which if they want to do, they set it up where there's a Spider-Verse of Spider-Man. They do a sequel to this, and it's still Morlun and all them.
But you know what? Say what we're gonna shit on Dan Slott's run, obviously, but say what you want. This run is one of the most successful Spider-Man events in recent memory.
Yeah.
Introduced Spider-Gwen, who is in Into the Spider-Verse. The movie just came out. All kinds of merchandise, which I think is basically just born from cosplay, pretty much.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we.
What else did we get? Is Miles Morales in this?
Miles Morales is in this one. He doesn't play as a big key factor, and we'll get into the whole Miles Morales thing too. And
upcoming,
he is an important character, but
Mayday's in it. Horribly again.
Yep.
Another character Slott doesn't. He maybe vaguely remembers the comics. So.
Vaguely, and that's the key word. But yeah, it's basically every Spider-Man in any costume, even new ones that the vampire people go around and kill. Part of the next part we're going to be going into, there's another Spider-Geddon type thing.
And how does Spider-Verse end? You saw a bunch of different Spider-Men.
Basically.
That's the end of the book.
And yeah, and that's what kind of leads us into basically Volume 5, because this is post Secret Wars Marvel, which was supposed to be
a reboot of the Marvel.
Reboot.
This was Marvel's Crisis.
And they did not do that. They got chickened out. So we come back with Peter Parker, Volume 5, Amazing Spider-Man, being a multi-millionaire douchebag.
And this is it. People said, you're making Peter Parker Tony Stark.
Yes, and it was the core thing, the greatest thing about Spider-Man is that he's relatable.
Yep.
You can be anyone under that mask. Stan Lee said it best. White, black, Asian, girl, whatever.
Yep.
Transgender, gay, straight. Once you put that mask on, you can be anyone.
Yep.
But people also related to Peter Parker.
Yep.
As well, at a core. And
Spider-Man, he would never let himself be this successful.
Exactly. So, and I'm going to diverge just a little bit. Like, one of the reasons why I have a problem with Miles Morales Spider-Man, he's not relatable.
Yeah. The thing is, when in the movie he is.
Yeah, in the movie, yes.
Came out, they actually did Miles Morales right.
Better than Bendis did.
And better than Bendis. In the comics, he's a good legacy character in the Ultimate Universe, but in the 616 universe, he's just redundant. And
they can't get him right. Like, whenever Bendis writes him, you can tell that this is his creation, and that he writes it so that he's more competent and better than Peter Parker.
I came to an epiphany last night that Bendis can't write and never could write. We can get that. Talk about that in another episode of Bendis.
But my biggest thing is nothing to do with Miles Morales' skin color. It has to do with he hasn't earned it yet. He hasn't earned to be the main Spider-Man yet.
Yeah, and we can talk about Miles.
Yeah, and I don't want to get onto that.
But so we're in Parker Industries. You can look at this two different ways. This is like a story that Dan Slott genuinely had, or Disney it was well known. Disney said, we want Iron Man to be the flagship character of Marvel.
And I think they tried doing that too.
And so I think Dan Slott, being as stubborn as he was like, okay, fine, fuck you. No, Spider-Man's the best. I love Spider-Man the best. So if you want Iron Man, I'm going to make Spider-Man like Iron Man. So much to the fact that he had the Prowler as his bodyguard.
Yep.
Which is like
Spider-Man was funding the Avengers.
Yep.
And they just during the Avengers book itself, Mark Waid was doing it, and basically the whole time the characters were basically bashing Peter Parker the whole time.
And this book also, not only does Slott this is where he just doesn't care, or never did, or never got the character.
Yeah.
There's such a character like reversal. The very first page of Volume 5 is Peter Parker saying something with great power comes great like Wi-Fi or something like that. Like something where the reason why he's Spider-Man is because of the words Uncle Ben told him.
Yeah.
And he's using it as like a joke, which he would like never do.
Nope. Because that's his motto. That's what he lives by. That keeps him from never giving up and always trying to do the right thing.
And it's just I can't even put into words how horrible the characterization is for this. Not only is Peter Parker horrible, this is where he goes full on incompetent Spider-Man.
Yeah. Not
one issue in this entire volume is Spider-Man doing a solo adventure or
and
being
he's
a
always,
character by himself.
He's always teaming up. It's co-starring Amazing Spider-Man, the incompetent Spider-Man, where he's always being saved by Mockingbird or Hobby Brown or so-and-so.
This is Mockingbird featuring Spider-Man. This is the Avengers featuring Spider-Man. Just ridiculous.
And it ties into the Spider-Geddon, which we'll get to eventually as well, where they kind of make Peter Parker Spider-Man be incompetent, where, you know, Superior Spider-Man and Miles Morales take over, and they're the ones that win the day. But like,
so Volume 5, we saw Parker Industries. Peter Parker's a millionaire right now. He has this big, huge, successful company where he's a billionaire based on merits that Dr. Octopus achieved for him, and he takes credit for. So Tony Stark, Spider-Man. This goes directly into Slott's next big storyline, the Clone Conspiracy. And this
is another big, giant fuck you tease from Dan Slott about the Ben Reilly character that we love.
Yep. We take what's the storyline before Clone Conspiracy? It's called No Dead No More.
Yeah, so it's a prelude to Dead No More, which is basically in the Amazing Spider-Man, it was Dead No More storyline, where even throughout the whole run you see the Ben Reilly, or the Jackal. We don't know it's Ben Reilly yet.
Spoiler alert.
You know, getting the supervillains on his side, saying, "Oh, I'm gonna clone Rhino's wife. I'm gonna clone Lizard's kids and wife to get him on his side, to help him out, get what he needs to get done, so you can create new you." So
this new Jackal creates the possibility of, so basically no one can die. Anybody who Spider-Man's ever failed, anybody who's ever died on his watch can come back. Which right there is a complete conflict of what Spider-Man is all about. Spider-Man, and when it comes to Spider-Man death, with great power comes great responsibility. He takes accountability for that. He takes ownership. When you create a sense that every failure there can be a do-over, then it's just it takes away a core concept of Spider-Man, which it takes away the essence of why he's a hero. But in the Clone Conspiracy, where so we have the Jackal, we have a bunch of guys returned. So the villain
is Ben Reilly.
Ben Reilly.
So we find out what happened is that at the events of Spider-Man 75, Ben Reilly dies, turns into a heap of dust. You find out that Peter Parker is the real, true Spider-Man. And, you know, Spider-Man basically carries Ben Reilly's belly to the top of a building, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. They have a conversation saying, "You're the real Spider-Man now," blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And magically, Miles Warren, who
died
numerous times during the Clone Saga, is just there on the rooftop and takes a sample of Ben Reilly's dusty body.
Which is why, you know what? I haven't read this. After this, there was a Scarlet Spider series, which I didn't read at all.
It was terrible.
I'm still going to subscribe to the idea that this is not the real Ben Reilly. Ben Reilly died in Peter Parker 75. This is Spider-Side.
Yep.
Masquerading as Ben Reilly.
Because I really feel like maybe they wanted to go that way because they had that smirk on the face
just
that
like
Spider-Side had.
Spider-Side was never confirmed dead. At the end of Maximum Clonage, they have him in a big containment unit, and
the
Spider-Man
new Warriors take him off.
Spider-Man goes, "Hey, is he dead?" And the police say, "It looks that way, but with these guys, you never know." So I'm subscribing to the theory that this is Spider-Side, not Ben Reilly. But anyway,
and so basically the story goes, he was cloned 25 times, and each time Miles Warren would kill him off. And he finally broke out the end, and then he wanted to perfect the cloning process because he was no longer the perfect clone.
Yep.
And he did that by having this pill that would reverse the clone deterioration. And then he used that to get funds, to blackmail people to get funds to him to create his new U company so that he could, you know, take over the world of clones, basically, it came down to.
It's all dumb.
Yeah.
It's just very dumb. And
Ben Reilly completely out of character.
But the payoff to the story ends up being is like, here's your Ben Reilly, and then like it's like getting like food from a restaurant and them just spinning on it
Yep.
and saying, "Here you go. You wanted it so bad, didn't you?"
And he gave it to us full force.
Yeah.
And this leads into the fall of Parker and the Red Goblin storyline.
We've started the transition of Dan Slott putting the toys back into the toy box.
Yep.
Now, because he knows he's finishing up his run. So we start the downfall of Peter Parker, which what we do at the end of every big writer's run is
Sets
we go
the
back to
stage.
default Peter
Yep.
Parker, where he's broke and a loser.
And he sets the stage. Yeah. So,
Yep.
basically, the fall of Parker storyline was Dan Slott getting Peter Parker back to roots. But the biggest thing with this is, it's always going to be, hey, Peter, remember that time you were a multimillionaire and you fucking destroyed your company?
Yep. See, the thing is, they think you're creating a relatable Spider-Man. But when you go from being a billionaire to like sleeping on your girlfriend's couch wearing her feminist agenda, see, so you're not like, oh, I can't relate to that. It's like you're like, as somebody who's like our age or even younger, our 20s, it's like, why don't you get your shit together and stop fucking up all the time? Which is, this is another reason why Dan Slott doesn't get Peter Parker. He thinks the Parker luck is Peter Parker always fucking up. He thinks like Peter Parker, like, he can't do anything right. It's like Lucy holding the football, pulling it out. He'll always stumble. The Parker luck isn't him being a fuck up. The Parker luck is him always choosing to do the right thing. And when the easy thing to do, the thing that would benefit him more as far as money goes or fame, he could always be like the wrestler or the tech guy, but he can't because he has to do the right thing. He has to and that's what the Parker luck is, doing the right thing. It's a morality thing. It's not like, the universe.
And it always happens at the worst
Spider-Man.
Possible time when he could be successful.
Right. So this is, Dan Slott, using the Parker luck to put default Spider-Man back into order. We have the storyline with this is like how he bookends his run, how he started it with like an action figure, big dumb storyline where Carnage the Green Goblin gets Carnage's symbiote. Norman Osborn learns who Spider-Man is again.
Yep, and erase it again by him not remembering who he was.
Yeah, so we end Spider-Man back to how he started it with Dan Slott's run. So now
out of this run, that was probably his best one because we get Peter Parker back to roots. We get Goblin Carnage. Flash Thompson sacrifices himself because what happened is Goblin poisoned all the Spider heroes, Human Torch, and the anti-venom goop suit, whatever, makes like it detoxifies or it cures.
It ends up killing Flash.
Yeah, and then very little suit left. The Goblin grabs him and throws him down into a building, and they fight and then Venom willingly gives up his symbiote suit to Spider-Man, which would never happen.
Yeah.
Talk about writing a character out of character. And then we almost see Spider-Man lose it because of Flash Thompson dying and Peter in the symbiote suit losing and turning into Venom. And basically Flash goes, "Don't do this, Peter. The symbiote is good."
Yeah.
I made the symbiote good again. So it ends with basically almost back where we started with Norman Osborn, not knowing who he is. It was a great fight between Spider-Man and Peter. I'm sorry, Spider-Man and the Goblin, where they have that old rivalry again.
Yep.
And it was great. And
do you know what I like about this? The storyline is Slott stay consistent where he starts his runoff not understanding characters, not writing them in character, and ends it not knowing how to write in character because Peter Parker is all broken up with Flash. Flash is all broken, but the thing is, Peter Parker and Flash Thompson were never friends.
No.
And Flash.
Well, they weren't like best of friends, but they kind of during the 90s they kind of became friends.
A little bit, but they were more acquaintances. Because even there was one point where Flash was in the hospital. I think it was some Spectacular Spider-Man issue, where like Peter was like, Flash was like, "Why are you here?" And he's like, "Well, we're friends." And Flash is like, "No, we just went to high school together. Like we're not friends."
Yeah.
And that's basically how he left it.
Mm.
I mean, granted, there's been character development, like when Flash was was like he had brain damage, and but he has Flash had no knowledge of that. So I mean, it's not as a personal and heartbreaking relationship for each other as Slott made it seem like how it was at the end. And then Slott ends his run with that one issue.
And it was kind of a snooze fest.
Just like a typical, stereotypical,
any writer who
character point of view Spider-Man tale.
It's been done before.
Yeah, and so and that right there ends Dan Slott's 10-year. I was gonna say reign, but more like a hostage.
Yeah, on our favorite character.
Yep. Okay. So we talked about the first half of Slott's run. We enjoyed that. Second half, what's the verdict on Slott's second half?
He did a completely, aside from the Superior Spider-Man, actually even up to, the biggest thing is he completely made Spider-Man unrelatable.
Yep.
Even during Superior Spider-Man, where it would make sense for Doc Ock to be more confident in himself, to take control of Spider-Man's body and make it, that part of the Parker Industries kind of made sense. But like from Superior Spider-Man on, he made it almost completely unrelatable character that we loved.
Yep.
And that was my biggest problem with the start of this whole run. I mean, with the Superior Spider-Man run, it wasn't the Spider-Man that I love. And he tried to have some type of Spider-Man that we loved in the Volume 4 and at the end of this Volume 5, but when it comes down to it, it was just the unrelatable Spider-Man.
For me, if I'm going to talk about Slott's entire run, it was basically he gets to the top of the mountain and just fell backwards right at the Superior. Superior was just the height. And then after that, I mean, while he still had some decent ideas, he was just bad at execution. It was a very successful time in Spider-Man, very influential time, whether you like it or not. But yeah, that was it. That was yeah.
It put Spider-Man on the map one way or another.
It was as high as it was low for me. And
well, I think after the Howard Mackie run, Spider-Man was on the upswing, and they kept getting writers and creators on there, artists, to keep that momentum moving forward. Even with the stink of Brand New Day, Spider-Man was in the spotlight. He was the main character that represents Marvel.
For me, Slott, he definitely loves Spider-Man. He definitely did what he wanted to do. Props to him. If I were in his shoes, I would do the same thing probably. I think Slott, it would be good to just be in charge of Spider-Man in every other media besides the comics. Like you'd put him in charge of a cartoon. Put him in charge of the video games, anything, just not the comics.
Yeah, and Spider-Geddon was just, it made it seem like a lot of these spiders were going to be killed off, and then not a lot. The only biggest death was Spider-Britain got killed off. Who
that Spider-Punk?
No, this was Captain Britain Spider-Man.
People love Spider-Punk. I don't get it.
Yeah. The only good thing about, and we will find out at the end of Spider-Geddon, which is over, that Doc Ock, Superior Spider-Man, the proto-clone of Doc Ock and Peter, basically cured Ben Reilly.
Yep.
We got a new Superior Spider-Man issue or series out. Miles Morales somehow became the better Spider-Man because he was able to weld the Captain Universe longer and better than Peter somehow.
Yep.
And out of that, not much really anything to. They did set the stage for another big Spider event.
Yep.
Where the Norman Osborn of a universe and the Spiders Man that has all of Spider-Man's memories, but it's just a bunch of spiders in a body. They disconnect the webs from Homeworld or something stupid shit like that, and basically they're the ones that are in control of the Spiderverse now. And I think that's going to set the stage for another Spiderverse thing. But
given how long and influential Slott's run was, would you put him in the same conversation as Stan Lee, Jerry Conway, Roger Stern, those guys?
I would have to say yes, because he had a lot of controversial runs. I mean,
Yep.
Jerry Conway had that big controversial one with Gwen Stacy, and
The original Clone Saga.
Yeah, the original Clone Saga. He killed off the Stacys. He
Yep.
did Captain Stacy killed off, and then it was kind of funny. Stan Lee went on vacation during the whole Gwen Stacy death, and then he came back and Gwen Stacy was dead. But
I personally I don't care for Slott's run, but well the second half, but I would put him in that conversation. I would put him in one of the legends
because he
of
made
Spider-Man.
an impact on Spider-Man, no matter what, good and bad.
Would you ever Slott back in the book ever?
Um,
What would it take for you to put Slott back in the book?
for him to not do what he did before, I don't think he'll be back on the book because.
I think he said all he had to say.
Yeah, and if he went back on the book, it wouldn't be great. It just wouldn't be great. I mean, I don't think all his ideas are done. He probably has a few ideas in the back burner that he would love to do that he might probably carry over.
Miniseries, something like that, maybe.
Miniseries, or he'll carry it over into Invincible Iron Man or Fantastic Four.
Last thing before we go, if you could pick Slott to go on any other character for a to be like the sole voice of a character, any other character, Marvel or DC, Image, for another 10 years, what would it be?
I think I'd like to see him on maybe Superman.
Me too. I would love me on Superman.
I would much rather have him be on than fucking Bendis.
Oh, but yeah, that's an episode we should definitely do.
Yeah. Bendis on DC.
I think Slott would be amazing on amazing on Superman.
Haha, yes.
So
the Amazing Superman.
Okay, I think we're gonna cap off the episode there. Yeah. Hope you guys all enjoyed listening. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to hear more, and we'll put up more content as we go.
Yes.
If we can. We're not sleeping.
Yeah, from both our jobs. But yeah, we'll have tons of content. We'll do video game. We're gonna do video games. We're gonna review movies. We'll review Captain Marvel when it comes out.
Yep.
And the sky's the limit with what we want to do.
All right, so stay tuned, guys. Bye-bye.